Hello, and welcome to the family service this week. And this week we're going to talk about David and Goliath, because Goliath was very, very large, and David,
Oi!
hello Shorty, was very, very small.
I'm not that small, I'm just far away, Reverend Mark.
I think you might just be very small like David, and I might be very, very large like Goliath. So this week, we're going to hear the story of David, hello Shorty, and Goliath, very, very tall. So, Reverend Layla, why was David chosen by God to be the king of his people?
Well, that's a really good question, Reverend Mark, because David wasn't the person you'd expect to be chosen as king. He was the youngest of a lot of brothers. And you know how we heard the story of Joseph, and he had lots of brothers?
He did, he had lots of brothers.
Well, David also had lots of brothers, but he was the littlest of all of them.
He was the youngest,
Yeah.
like Benjamin, Joseph's.
Exactly.
Yes.
So when God sent someone to choose the king from this family, he went through all of the brothers, starting with the biggest and getting down and down and down and down and down. Eventually, all of them were probably a little bit upset because they weren't chosen.
No, because people, I expect they would like to be the king.
I think they would.
Yeah, and then
There was no one left. So he said, is there anyone else? And they said, well, there's only the little one. He's out in the field with the sheep. So they called in David, and he was anointed as king.
He was anointed as king.
He was anointed as king. That meant he had oil poured over his head.
He had oil poured over his head to show that he was going to be king
Exactly.
at some point in the future.
Yeah, he was God's chosen person
To take over from the old king.
to take over from the old king. Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
so that's really fascinating that he was chosen instead of all his big brothers, because God wanted him to be the future king.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And what's really special is that even though he was chosen for this really special job to be the king, he still went back out to the fields and was a shepherd and helped his dad and helped his brothers.
Wow, so even though he knew he was going to be king one day, he still did his normal work and helped the people he should help.
Yeah.
Oh, that shows he was going to be a very good king, hopefully.
It did, yeah.
Shall we now hear the story of David and Goliath?
I think so.
So we've got a really interesting video this week with a lot of lollipop sticks are used. So I'm really... Hello, Cookie. Have you come in to watch the video as well? How excited. So we'll watch the video here with Cookie, and you watch the video, and we'll see you when we get back. Bye-bye.
This is David.
Hey!
David was a shepherd who lived in Bethlehem. David was chosen by God to be the next king of Israel when he was just a boy. But David had to wait a very long time until that promise would come true, because there was another king of Israel named Saul. Saul led the armies of Israel. One day, King Saul was with his army near the Valley of Elah. On the other side of this valley, the Philistines, the enemies of Israel, gathered their army ready to fight. The Philistines had a giant warrior named Goliath who challenged the Israelites.
Hey!
Goliath spoke badly of God and his people. He shouted and taunted them, saying, "Choose one man to come down here and fight me." The Israelites and King Saul were very afraid. Meanwhile, David's father sent David to bring some food to his brothers and their captain. Goliath came out of the Philistines' army, and David heard him shout his usual mean taunts to the army of Israel.
Whoa, what?
As soon as the Israelites saw Goliath, they began to run away in fright.
See ya!
David asked, "Who is this Philistine anyway, that he has allowed to defy the armies of the living God?" David's questions were reported to King Saul, and the king sent for him.
Hi!
David said, "Don't worry about this Philistine. I'll go fight him." Saul said, "There's no way you can fight him and win. You're only a boy."
Wait!
But David told Saul that he had taken care of his father's sheep and rescued them from lions and bears. Then David declared, "The Lord who rescued me from the claws of the lion and bear will rescue me from this Philistine." So Saul said, "All right, go ahead and may the Lord be with you." David picked up 5 smooth stones from a stream. Then, armed only with his shepherd's staff and sling, he started across the valley to fight Goliath. When Goliath saw him coming, he sneered at him and yelled bad things at David. But David said, "You come to me with a sword, spear, and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of Heaven's armies." Goliath moved closer to attack, and David quickly ran out to meet him. He hurled a stone from his sling and hit Goliath in the forehead. The stone sank in, and Goliath stumbled and fell to the ground. So David triumphed over the Philistine with only a sling and a stone, for he had no sword. But he knew the power of God and trusted God to win the battle against the giant.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that video. Did you think David was very, very, very brave for fighting the Goliath, who was so big, so big? What do you think, Reverend Layla?
I think David was amazing, Reverend Mark, because Goliath was really scary. And also, he wasn't a very nice person, because he was saying all sorts of rude things about God's people and about God.
Was he now?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not good.
And that obviously made David very, very upset. So what's amazing for me is that even though David was teeny wee and Goliath was quite big.
So shorty, and big Goliath.
Giant, exactly.
Big Goliath.
But scary giant, not the good kind.
No, scary giant.
Scary giant.
Yes.
David knew that even though Goliath was this big, God was this big.
This big?
This big.
So Goliath was this big, but God was this big.
Enormous.
So is God bigger than anything?
Every single thing in the world. Because if God made the whole world and the universe and the stars and the planet, that means God is big.
Big.
Bigger than Charminster and the world and the universe.
That's quite amazing. Actually, aren't we now going to watch a song? Our God is a great big God. Oh, I'm really excited about watching that.
Yeah, me too. I love the actions for the song.
Because it's got some amazing actions. Some amazing. Shall we go and watch it?
We're going to sing to it and do the actions too.
We're going to sing and do the actions. Cookie, are you going to sing and do the actions?
He's so excited.
Oh, he is so excited.
Yeah.
So we'll watch it here and sing and do the actions. You do the singing and do the actions there, and we'll see you when you get back.
See you.
Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God, and He holds us in His hands. Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God, and He holds us in His hands. He is higher than a skyscraper, and He's deeper than a submarine.
wasn't that fun? And all the actions, what a great song, explaining how big God is.
Yeah.
Amazing. It was really lovely to see you this week.
It was.
And next week, we are going to talk about...
David, part 2. Me too.
I am getting very excited about David, part 2.
But Goliath isn't actually there ever, Mark, I'm afraid.
No, unfortunately, Goliath...
He died.
He died.
Yeah,
So there's
sorry.
no Goliath.
The end.
So it's David part 2 without Goliath.
Yeah.
But it's still very exciting.
Very exciting.
So we'll see you next week. So it's all it is now to say goodbye. Shall we say goodbye?
Okay, bye-bye.
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 Bye-bye.